The silent arrival, the Empire's scanners lit up with a strange signal. A small ship had entered restricted space, drifting slowly across the stars. At first, the officers inside the Empire's command center laughed. The vessel looked weak too. Small, too fragile. Nothing compared to the massive war fleets of the Empire. Another lost species, one commander said with a smirk. They enter where they do not belong. Let us teach them their place. But not everyone was laughing. Deep in the control room, the sensor officer leaned closer to his screen. Something about the readings was not right. The ship carried energy. Inside it energy that did not match any record in the Empire's vast library of known species. It was not plasma, not fusion, not antimatter. It was something different. Still, the High Command did not care. To them, the newcomers were nothing but weak creatures who had stumbled too close to power far greater than theirs. The Empire's history was full of stories like this. Many young civilizations had wandered into forbidden space before. All of them had been crushed. All of them had bent to the will of the Empire. None had ever dared to resist. But this ship was silent. No greeting, no request, no desperate cry for help. Just silence. And somehow that silence felt dangerous. The generals gathered inside the Empire's grand war hall. Dozens of alien voices echoed through the chamber. Most were mocking. Some were arrogant. A few, however, whispered with unease. "It does not answer," one alien lord said. "Perhaps it is broken. Perhaps it is bait," another suggested. The High Emperor raised his clawed hand and silenced them all. His cold eyes locked onto the projection of the small vessel. "Whatever it is," the Emperor said slowly, "we will remind it of the law of this galaxy. The strong rule, the weak obey." He ordered 10 warships to intercept the intruder. To the Empire, it was only a routine display of power. The 10 ships launched with glowing trails of light. They were giants, armored like mountains and armed with weapons that could burn entire cities from orbit. Each one had destroyed dozens of fleets before. They carried the pride of the Empire. The human vessel, by contrast, looked like nothing. A thin frame of metal, barely the size of a transport. Craft, no visible weapons. No escort, alone. The warships approached and opened communication. "This is the Empire. You are in forbidden space. Surrender your vessel. You will kneel, or you will be destroyed." At last, the human ship sent a signal. It was not a surrender. It was not a plea. It was a single short message, delivered in a calm and steady voice. "Do not follow." The commanders burst into laughter. The fleet admiral mocked the message. "They dare warn us." He said with a sharp grin, "Weaklings always beg. But these do not even beg. They think they can command us." The admiral raised his hand. "Destroy them." The 10 warships opened fire. Blazing plasma tore across the void, aimed to shatter the tiny vessel into dust. But then something impossible happened. The space around the human ship bent. It was as if the stars themselves shifted, pulled, and stretched by invisible hands. The plasma vanished into the void, swallowed by nothingness. The alien officers froze. They had never seen such a thing. "Impossible," one whispered. "No, Shield can do this." Before they could react, the human vessel pulsed with energy. It was quiet, almost gentle, yet the effect was terrifying. One by one, the 10 mighty warships flickered on the screens. For a moment, they looked normal. The next moment, they were gone. No explosion, no wreckage. Just gone. In their place drifted fragments of shattered metal, silent and cold. The command center fell silent. Across the Empire's capital, fear began to spread. The generals replayed the footage again and again, searching for answers, but there was nothing to explain. The warships, the Empire's pride, had been erased in seconds by a single fragile vessel, and the human ship. It did not move closer. It did not chase. It only sat in silence, as if watching, as if waiting. The Emperor slammed his fist onto the table, his voice filled with rage and fear. They dared to strike at us. He shouted, "They will pay for this insult. We will bring 1,000 ships. We will crush their world." But the censor officer, still pale, whispered quietly to himself, "No, they warned us, and we did not listen." His words were drowned by the cries of war, but deep inside, he knew the truth. The silence of the human vessel was not weakness, it was a warning. And so the story began, the day the Empire first learned that humanity was not a weak species. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not bow. Humanity only gave one message: do not follow. Testing the weaklings, the Empire had lost 10 warships. 10 vessels that were meant to crush entire fleets had vanished in a single moment, erased by a ship no bigger than a scout craft. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Civilizations under the Empire's rule asked the same question: who are they? What kind of species can destroy the Empire's warships so easily? But the Empire did not tolerate fear. They silenced every whisper with threats. They announced to the galaxy that the loss was a trick, a failure in the ship's engines, nothing more. The Empire could not admit weakness. Inside the War Council, the Emperor's face burned with rage. "They are weaklings," he growled. "They only surprised us once, nothing more. We will crush them like insects." He demanded a new fleet, 100 ships this time. If 10 ships had fallen, then 100 would not fail. The fleet launched, with fire in their engines. Hundreds of glowing lights streaked across space, all headed toward the human vessel. The Empire wanted to make an example. They would destroy the intruder in sight of every censor, so the galaxy would see their power. Once again, the human ship still floated silently in the dark. Alone, unmoving, waiting, the Empire fleet formed a circle around it. Dozens of commanders laughed through the comps. "Look at it," one sneered. "It doesn't even try to run." "Perhaps it is frozen in fear," another mocked. The admiral of the fleet leaned forward in his chair, his scaled face twisted. In pride, "No more games," he said. "We will burn them. We will scatter their ashes across the stars." The fleet prepared its weapons. Plasma cannons glowed. Ion lances hummed. Missiles locked onto their target. The void filled with the storm of energy that was about to be unleashed. But just before they fired, a calm signal came through. It was the same voice as before, a human voice, clear, steady, without fear. "Do not follow," the Empire officers roared with laughter. The same warning, repeated like a child's cry. To them, it meant nothing. "Fire," the admiral commanded. The sky lit up. Hundreds of blasts rushed toward the small vessel. The stars themselves seemed to vanish under the glow of plasma and missiles. But again, reality bent. The space around, the human ship rippled like water. The blasts curved away, dissolving into nothing. The officers stared in disbelief. "It cannot be," one shouted. "Our full power deflected." Before their shock could fade, the human vessel moved. For the first time since its arrival, it shifted. Not fast, not aggressive, just a slow drift forward. Yet every sensor screamed danger. The admiral shouted, "All ships maintain distance." But it was too late. The vessel pulsed with silent energy. The Empire's ships, one by one, began to flicker. Their lights dimmed. Engines shut down. Weapons went dark. Inside the control rooms, panic spread. Officers slammed their claws on controls, but the systems would not respond. Whole ships went silent, their crews trapped inside, powerless. Shells, and then, in a single breath, 20 of the closest warships shattered. They did not explode, they simply fell apart, torn into fragments as if invisible hands had ripped them open. The screams of the crews never reached space. Only silence remained. The admiral shouted, his voice shaking for the first time, "Fall back, fall back now." But retreat was impossible. The human ship did not chase. It did not fire again. It only drifted slowly, as if watching, as if waiting for the next move. Fear spread like fire through the fleet. 100 mighty ships had come with arrogance, yet nearly a quarter were gone within seconds. The rest were powerless, their systems locked by forces they could not understand. The human vessel sent no threat, no demand, no boast, only silence, and silence was worse than words. Back in the Empire's capital, the War Council was in chaos. Commanders shouted over one another. Some demanded more fleets, larger numbers, stronger weapons. Others whispered the unthinkable. They should retreat, that they should avoid this strange species. The Emperor slammed his clawed fist on the table. "We are the Empire," he roared. "We do not run. If they destroy 100 ships, we will send 1,000. If they erase 1,000, we will send 10,000. They cannot stand against the storm of our power." Yet deep down, cracks were forming in his voice. He knew the truth. Power alone might not be enough. In the darkness of space, the human vessel began to move again. It did not flee. Instead, it turned slowly, deliberately, toward the Empire's nearest colony. Sensors screamed across the Empire's networks. Panic swept the civilians. If this ship could erase fleets so easily, what could it do to a world? The Council begged the Emperor to respond. Should they defend the colony? Should they evacuate? Should they launch everything they had? The Emperor clenched his teeth. For the first time in his reign, he hesitated. Then, across every channel, the same calm human voice spoke once more. "This is your last warning. Do not follow." The words echoed in every heart, across every star system. To the Empire, it sounded like a threat. To others watching in silence, it sounded like truth. For the first time in thousands of years, the Empire was afraid. And yet, their pride blinded them. They did not run. Not yet. They would strike back, and the galaxy would learn what it meant to ignore the warning of humankind. Asterisk. The Empire strikes back. The Empire had never been humiliated like this before. 10 ships destroyed, then 100 shattered and silenced. By a single fragile vessel, the galaxy whispered louder now. In dark markets, smugglers spoke of the silent humans. In conquered colonies, slaves prayed for their name. Even vassal states, long broken under Empire rule, dared to hope, and hope was dangerous. The Emperor could not allow it. His throne shook with fury. His pride screamed louder than reason. "Enough," he roared to the Council. "We are the Empire. We are eternal. These humans think themselves gods, but they will learn. We will show them the storm." This time, he commanded not hundreds, but 1,000 warships. A fleet so large it blotted out stars when it moved together. Entire shipyards worked without rest, forging weapons of vengeance. The message was simple. The Empire would drown humanity in fire. The fleet launched with thunder. Across space, the 1,000 ships surged forward, their engines blazing like suns. The galaxy trembled at the sight. Never before had so much power gathered for a single war. On conquered worlds, people watched and wondered. Would the Empire finally crush this strange new species? Or would the humans do the impossible once again? At the edge of human space, the fleet arrived. But what they found was nothing, no fleets waiting in defense, no warships rising to meet them, no fortresses, no guns, no armies, just silence. The admirals mocked it as cowardice. They run from us, one said proudly. They know they cannot stand. The flagship broadcast its voice across the void. Humans, you cannot hide forever. Face us, or we will burn your worlds. The stars remained silent. Then slowly, systems across the Empire fleet began to flicker. Engines sputtered. Shields dimmed. Targeting systems froze at first. The commanders thought it was a glitch. They shouted at their engineers, demanded answers, barked orders to restart systems. But the truth came quickly. Every ship in the fleet, all 1,000 vessels, was being shut down. By who? By the humans. Panic filled the control rooms. Officers slammed claws and tendrils against frozen controls. Nothing responded. Impossible, one screamed. We shield our networks. It is not hacking, another gasped. It is something else. Something inside the code itself. On the flagship, the admiral's face turned pale. He realized too late. The humans had already won, long before this battle began. They had not needed fleets. They had not needed fortresses. They had already crawled into the Empire's systems, into their machines, into their very weapons. The humans had been watching, preparing, waiting, across the frozen fleet. A voice suddenly echoed, calm, clear. The same human voice as before. We told you once, do not follow. The admiral shouted back, his pride cracking into rage. Show yourself, coward. If you are gods, then fight us. Do not hide behind tricks. But the voice did not rise. It did not scream. It simply repeated, do not follow. And then the ships began to die. One by one, Empire vessels turned dark. Their engines collapsed. Their reactors burned out in silence. The crew screamed inside, helpless, as systems locked them in. Some ships broke apart, torn into fragments by invisible forces. Others simply drifted, lifeless husks in the void. It was not war. It was not even a battle. It was a lesson. The humans did not need to fire weapons. They only needed to show the truth. The Empire was powerless before them. The admirals begged for mercy. Across the comms, frantic voices pleaded, stop, we surrender. Spare us, we will retreat. Please, do not destroy us. But the human vessel, the same small ship that had started it, all did not answer. It drifted calmly through the frozen graveyard of ships, its lights glowing like an eye in the dark. And finally, it spoke again. This is your last chance. Leave, run, do not follow. Then, as suddenly as it began, the silence lifted. Engines flickered back to life. Weapons hummed again. Systems restarted. The humans had given them back their ships. The fleet did not wait. Terrified, broken, they fled at once, retreating into the dark, scattering like insects before a flame. Back on the capital, The emperor was furious. He slammed his throne with claws until cracks spread across the floor. "They mock us," he screamed. "They dare humiliate the empire and live." But fear had already infected the council. Some spoke of surrender. Others begged for peace. A few whispered the unthinkable. What if the humans are not conquerors at all? What if they only want us gone? The emperor silenced them with threats of death. But even he felt it fear creeping into his heart like poison in the dark halls of power. One old general finally spoke. His voice was rough, quiet, and filled with dread. "Do you not see? They are not weaklings. They are not cowards. They are something else, something worse. They fight only when they must. And when they do," he looked up at the emperor, his eyes cold, "they never lose." The chamber fell silent. No one dared speak. Outside, across the stars, the message of the humans spread again. A message, simple and terrifying: do not follow. And for the first time in history, the empire hesitated. The true face of humanity. The empire had survived, but it was no longer the same. The humiliation had cut deeper than any weapon. They had sent 1,000 ships, and humanity had returned them like broken toys, left trembling in silence. But the empire's pride was not dead. The emperor refused to kneel. His rage grew, burning hotter with each report that reached him. Worse than the defeat was the whisper spreading across the galaxy. On every world, from the poorest mine colonies to the grandest city stations, people now spoke the name of the humans, not with fear but with hope. They can fight the empire. They are the first who cannot be crushed. Perhaps they are here for us. Hope was poison to the empire. Hope was rebellion. The emperor ordered spies. He commanded his fleets to search every corner of the galaxy. He demanded answers. Who were these humans? Where did they come from? How had they become so strong in secret? For weeks, probes vanished. Fleets returned empty-handed. No trace, no homeworld, no colonies. It was as if the humans existed only when they wished. Then one day, a fragment appeared. Drifting data core. Empire scouts recovered it from deep space. Burnt, damaged, barely functional, but inside, encrypted files glowed faintly. Files written in human code. The emperor ordered the empire's greatest minds to break it open, and they did. What they found changed everything. Inside the files were records, not of victories, not of threats, but of wars older than the empire itself. Wars fought by humans, not against aliens, but against each other. Endless battles across continents, oceans, skies, and stars. Billions dead. Whole cities erased. Weapons that shook worlds, unleashed not on enemies from beyond, but on their own. Kind, the council stared in silence. Madness, one muttered. They destroy themselves. Another whispered, and yet they survive. The emperor's claws tapped against his throne. He felt a chill, colder than any defeat. The humans had not grown strong fighting outsiders. They had forged their strength in fire and blood against themselves. A species that could fight endless wars and endure was a species that could never be broken. The empire did not share this truth with the galaxy. They locked it away in secret archives, burned the evidence, killed the scientists who had seen too much. But fear could not be contained, even without proof. The galaxy felt it. The humans had not shown their true face yet. What they had done, so far destroying fleets, silencing armies, was not their full power. It was only a warning, and the warning was clear. Run, In the weeks that followed, the Empire tried one last desperate move. If force could not win, perhaps deception could. They sent envoy ships carrying ambassadors, diplomats, and spies. Their mission was simple: to meet the humans, to learn their secrets, and, if possible, to poison them from within. The Empire prepared its sweetest lies, promises of peace, offers of alliance, hidden blades ready to strike. But when the envoy reached the dark edge of human space, they found no fleets waiting, only silence. Their signals echoed unanswered. Days passed. Supplies dwindled. Some whispered that the humans would never come. Then, without warning, the envoy's ships drifted into a shadow. A vast shape eclipsed the stars. It was not a single vessel. It was not a fleet. It was something else entirely. A construct so enormous, it stretched beyond sight. Metal, stone, and light fused into a single impossible structure. It was not a station, not a fortress. It was a world, a human world, moving through the void. The ambassadors trembled as the structure came alive. Lights flickered, shadows shifted. Countless ships emerged from hidden ports, swarming like insects, but moving with deadly precision. And then, across every channel, the same human voice spoke, calm, cold. You should not have followed. The ambassadors begged for peace. They offered gold, tribute, slaves, even loyalty. But the humans did not answer. Instead, the envoy's ships were seized, not destroyed, taken, pulled into the massive human construct by invisible force. Inside, crews screamed as the darkness swallowed them. No signals escaped. The ambassadors were never heard from again. When word reached the emperor, he raged, but in the council chamber, none shared his anger. They felt something else dearer. The humans had not only defeated fleets, they had captured their spies. They had shown a piece of themselves, a glimpse of their true strength, and it was more than ships, more than weapons. It was will, the will to endure, the will to rise again and again, no matter how much blood was spilled, the will that no empire could ever break. In the quiet that followed, even the emperor hesitated. For the first time in his reign, he felt the weight of his own throne. He ruled billions, but against humans, numbers meant nothing. And deep inside, though he would never say it aloud, he understood the truth. The humans had not come to conquer. They had come to warn, and if the empire refused to listen, then one day soon, the galaxy would burn. Asterisk, the last warning: the empire had reached its end. Not in fire, not in a single great battle, but in silence. Their fleets had failed, their spies had vanished, their pride had shattered. But the emperor would not bend. He could not. His throne was built on fear, and if he showed weakness, his empire would crumble. So he called his last council. Generals, admirals, and advisors filled the great chamber. The air was heavy, thick with unspoken dread. The emperor's voice cut through it like a blade. "We will not retreat," he declared. "We will not bow. If these humans want war, we will give it. If they want blood, we will drown them. We are the empire, eternal, unbroken." But his words rang hollow. The council's eyes betrayed the truth. None believed it anymore. Far away, in the dark edges of the galaxy, the humans prepared. The moving world ship had already swallowed the empires. Envoy now, for the first time, humanity chose to reveal themselves fully. From hidden gates in the void, their fleets emerged. Not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands. Each ship carried scars, Not from this war, but from others. Old battles, long forgotten by history. They were not new vessels built in haste. They were survivors. Relics of endless conflict, still alive, still sharp. The galaxy watched in horror as these ships spread across the stars, forming a wall of fire and steel. Humanity had arrived. The Empire sent its last armada to meet them. The Emperor himself ordered it, screaming that this was destiny. The two forces met at the edge of a dead star. The Empire brought everything it had left: millions of soldiers, hundreds of thousands of ships. But when they arrived, they saw something they had never expected. The humans did not attack. They simply waited. The human ships hovered in silence, their weapons quiet, their lights burning like a warning flame. Across every channel, across every signal, one voice returned, calm, cold, terrifying: do not follow. The Empire fired anyway. Missiles, beams, and cannons filled the void. A storm of fire raged toward the human wall, and then it ended. Not with explosions, not with shields, but with nothing. Every Empire weapon turned dark. Every missile froze. Every cannon locked. Their own fire died in their hands. The Empire's armada became a fleet of statues, frozen in the shadow of the humans. And slowly, very slowly, the human fleet moved forward, not attacking, not destroying, only advancing. The Empire's ships panicked, breaking formation, scattering in fear. But no matter where they fled, the humans did not chase. They only advanced, steady and silent, like a tide that could not be stopped. On the Empire's capital world, alarms rang. Citizens looked to the skies and saw something they had never imagined. The stars were gone, blotted out by ships, by humans, billions, watched as the human fleet stretched across their heavens. Cities froze. Markets fell silent. Even the Emperor's palace shook as shadows darkened the sky. The humans did not fire. They did not speak, until one signal broke the silence. Across every Empire world, every screen, every broadcast, the human voice returned. It spoke in their tongue. It spoke simply: we do not seek your empire. We do not seek your worlds. We do not seek your lives. We only give one command: do not follow. The words were not shouted. They were not proud. They were calm, steady, and final. The voice continued: you do not know us. You do not understand us, but you have seen enough to fear. That is all we wish. We will return to our place, far from your reach. Stay away, and you will live. Follow, and you will not. The galaxy listened. Billions held their breath. Even the Emperor sat frozen, claws trembling against his throne. And then, as suddenly as they came, the humans left. The fleets vanished into the void. The skies cleared. The stars returned. Not a single Empire city was destroyed. Not a single world burned. Humanity had spared them. But the silence left behind was worse than any ruin. For the Empire knew the truth now. The humans had not shown mercy because they were weak. They had shown it because they were strong enough to end everything but chose not to. That was the greatest terror of all. In the weeks that followed, the Empire grew quiet. Fleets no longer patrolled as proudly. Worlds whispered of rebellion, and for once, the Empire did not crush them. For the first time in centuries, the Empire hesitated. The Emperor still raged, but his generals no longer obeyed with fire in their hearts. His people no longer bowed with fear in their eyes. Something had changed, not because the Empire had lost to an enemy, but because the galaxy had seen the true face of humanity. They were not conquerors. They were not saviors. They were something worse. A species that had fought themselves for eternity. A species that had survived endless fire. A species that could end a war before it began. The Empire had looked into the abyss of humanity and learned the last truth. You cannot break them. And so the warning remained, etched forever in the hearts of the galaxy: do not follow.